Hey, Chase, how are you? Good to meet you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good, Bonnie. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for your time. I
Yeah.
love the film. Wow, it is so ambitious. And I want to ask, I mean, you've directed a couple shorts. This is your first, feature film debut. But you also, look, you gave us the screenplay for it, and then you're tackling this. Do you like this kind of pressure on you?
With these big books, I would say the pressure is off a little bit because they are, in both cases, they're written by really talented authors that have very specific voices, right? And so
Yeah.
you have a pretty firm foundation from which to start from, and in adapting these books, I always say you don't adapt every moment, you're adapting the spirit of the book, right? And so I really connected to the spirit of Sergio, who wrote Naked Singularity and is himself a public defender of 20 years in New York and is married to a public defender 20 years in Brooklyn. It's just I just loved his way in. It was like outraged and funny and absurdist and so well observed that I thought it was a new way to explore like a worthy subject matter, and do it through the lens of this attitude and this sort of genre mashup that he
and it's interesting to me because it is a world, not a lot of us know about and stuff, but in any job you can be frustrated as hell, like, no matter what, everybody could drive you crazy. But John Boyega, like, just portrays this guy. Your heart goes out to him. I mean, I love the scenes in the courtroom with him and Linda Lavin because, she's giving him a hard time. He's so frustrated.
Yeah.
And then he just makes this 180. What was it about that part of the story that kind of connected with you?
I liked watching this young idealistic guy who's good at his job, but he's sort of, he's pushing hard against the system and even kind of finding angles, right, to try to push them through. And he continually is, getting sort of foiled and kind of, being batted away. And these are petty crimes often, right? Like these people's lives are getting upended for really small, petty things.
Right.
And so it's not even life and death, but it will, completely change these people's lives if they get kind of stuck in the system. So he's, I just love his, that he's aggressive and he's idealistic and he's getting kind of beaten around and he can't quite figure out how to, navigate this system. And I think he thought he was smart enough to do it. And the system's just, too Kafka-esque and too big to fight against,
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm wondering, when you were adapting it, when you were writing the screenplay, did you have John in mind for this role?
I did. By the end of it, I mean, when I started, no, but by the end of it, I was thinking very hard because at that point I knew I'd be directing it. And I was just trying to think who would best represent this sort of kind of ethos and attitude. And I saw John in Detroit, honestly. And after, I've been a fan since Attack the Block and Star Wars. When I saw him in Detroit, he's that's a character that he's observing. Yes. And he's powerless to do anything about what's going on, but you can feel the indignation and the outrage. Like he had a great performance sort of underneath this inability to act that I thought was not unlike Cassie, right? Cassie's trying to act, but there's only so much she can do. Yeah. And so I felt like you could get that sort of sense of indignation and integrity from Cassie. But then you have, John's other, points of his career where he's in genre mashups. He can do action, he could be physical and all that stuff. So I thought just he had versatility that would be perfect for this.
Yeah, and also talk about versatility, Olivia, every time I see her, she's different accent, different, she really embodies these characters. I loved her in this film. Was she somebody also did you have in mind? I mean, even the whole cast, like everybody kind of really works in their roles.
Oh, I'm so happy. I mean, we thought long and hard about how to cast this appropriate. I mean, Olivia is an extraordinary actress. She can do anything, and she would give you something different every take. And she was good every take. I would love to cast her in anything because I think she can do it all. And it was fun to see her kind of take this character, like the nails and the hair. Like these were her decisions in terms of like creating the character. And I think it was really important to kind of fashion this kind of fun, feisty woman who's, one step ahead of all the guys in this. movie,
Right.
which I loved about that character. And and then Linda Lavin obviously is like, just she's
Yeah.
a badass Broadway actress that I've known forever, and she was able to come in and choose scenery with John. And Tim Blake Nelson, of course, is Tim Blake Nelson, and could he adds so much intellect and kind of playfulness and fun to his role. And then Bill Skarsgård, I thought, was really different. He was slick and kind of screwball comedy. He brought us like a little bit of that screwball comedy vibe. Right. That was the devil on John's shoulder. So I just love to see Abu and Dead.
Did you get to know him well because of it?
I didn't. I mean, he was on. I wrote on the Kerry Fukunaga version of it. So we had, we did a vast majority of the character work in that script. But I think when Muschietti came on board, it was his decision to cast Bill, and it was an amazing decision because Bill took what we wrote and turned it into something special. So.
Hello, I'm still kind of look around under grates of when I walk down the street of Toronto, because it was all shot here. So it all freaks me out every time I think about that. And I want to ask you too, just to talk about it for a second, because look, it's an iconic series, book, Stephen King. I mean, honestly, were you, this is like, was your first big screenplay that just exploded, my friend. I mean, wow. Who didn't see that movie, honestly? Were you scared when you started to write that? Like, when you think about the pedigree behind it?
I don't know if anybody expected it to be as big of a success as it was. I think what we did, the thing that we knew was special about it was, we missed those Amblin movies of the 80s. And we were simply trying to write an Amblin movie from the 80s that had the scary clown in it, using Stephen King's wonderful set pieces. And so we were really trying to make something that reflected our own, like when we were 13 and we had bikes, and we did feel like people were going to connect to that. But then you add obviously that iconic character of Pennywise, and and the great work all the filmmakers did on it, and it became this whole other kind of beast. No, everyone was hopeful, but no one expected it to.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. Quickly, I just want to ask you, now that you've directed this, you've got that feature film under your belt, and confident, I'm sure, because I think you did a really good job with this one. What did you learn as a director on this movie that you might take with you for the next one that you do?
I would like to shoot something that doesn't have wall-to-wall dialogue that this one does, just to have a little more space to be visual in your storytelling. That was I would say the biggest thing I learned was I wanted a little bit more space and time with some visual storytelling, and versus sort of and I love the dialogue and the banter and the sort of the energy of all that. So it's actually more of I just got to play in one sandbox, and the next one I'd like to be slightly different, than what this was, and tell the story with just a little more visually. That's all.
Mix it up.
And then I mean, there's so much there's so much I learned, but that I think not trying to stuff. I would say that as a screenwriter, the thing I learned most is you sort of think you can get away with telling the story with stuffing things into a scene, like little moments, cutaways, this or that, and then you learn that you just can't use all that information. It just sort of slows down the scene, so you have to be more streamlined than you're writing.
Yeah, cool stuff. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Chase. I thought you did a great job, and I loved all the actors in it too. So it was fun to watch it for me. And best of luck with the success of it. And thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it. Bye.
Take care. Have a good rest of your day. Okay, bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.